Okay, hello brave art students. I'm going to pick up where we left off last time. We had wrapped our clay slab in a plastic bag and some damp towels, and we put it on our clay board. So I've got mine back. I'm going to open it up and take out my clay slab, and I'm going to show you how to make a clay pocket, how to add some decorations onto it, and how to texture it. Okay, so again, here's my paper towels. I'm going to take my slab out, set my paper towels aside because I'm going to need those again when I'm finished, and I may need them again. Put my slab down here. So I'm going to take my slab and I'm going to cut it in half using a fettling knife. This is a clay tool. It's kind of sharp, so you want to be careful with it. And I'm going to just cut my slab in half this way so that I have two pieces. And I'm noticing that the middle part of it is a little bit thick, thicker than the outside edges. So I'm going to go back with the heel of my hand, and I'm going to just tap a little bit out from the center to the edge and make it just a little thinner, and it will get just a little bit bigger as well. And I'm going to do that to the other half of the slab as well. Now, when we make this pocket, there's a lot of options for shapes. I'm going to just take the basic shape that the clay slabs are already in. But there's a special way of attaching one piece of clay to another piece of clay so that it doesn't fall apart. And that way, attaching is called scoring and slipping. So this is going to be the back part of my pocket, and this part here is going to be the front part of my pocket. And it's going to fit together kind of like that, so I can put things inside of it if I want to, and eventually be able to hang it on the wall. And I can decorate this and texture it with some clay and with some texturing tools. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing I want to do is attach the clay. No, that's not the first thing I want to do. I'm sorry. First thing I want to do is texture the outside of my pocket so that I have a design on there. Okay, so I'm going to use this pencil, and I'm going to pretend that my clay pocket is going to be hanging on my wall at home to put my keys in. So I'm going to write keys on here. And so there it is, and I've just carved in with the pencil. I like using a pencil. I think it's got a nice wedge tip to it, and it works pretty well. And sometimes when you're carving in, you get these clay crumbs that build up. So I'm going to just kind of use my finger and get those clay crumbs out of the way. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is put a little bit of a design around the edge. I'm going to use this tongue depressor, and I'm just going to press it in. Let's see if I can show you this a little bit better. So I'm just going to press this design around the edge, the tongue depressor. Just make it a little bit decorative. You can use a lot of things to press into the clay to add some texture or decoration. I can also use the back end of my pencil, and if I push that into the clay, I get these nice little circles. I'm just going to go around like that. I have some texture tools here. They're just little clay tools, and I can use those to kind of scratch in a little texture and some other areas. That looks like probably enough for this design. Okay, so I have the outside of my pocket. It didn't take too long to do that. And I'm going to attach it to the back part of my pocket. And to do that, and I want to push it up a little bit so that my pocket has some room in there, so it's not too thin. The space is not too narrow inside. Now, when I put one piece of clay onto another piece of clay, it sticks pretty well, but it's the moisture in the clay that's holding it together, that's making it stick together. And before the clay goes into the kiln, we have to let it dry out completely. It has to be what we call bone dry. And that's so that, again, the clay doesn't crack while it's being baked or explode in the kiln, because if there's moisture trapped in the clay, it's just like having air trapped in the clay. It can cause the clay to crack or break apart while it's being fired. So, so I'm going to score and slip it and create some grooves in the clay so that one piece of clay kind of fits into the other piece of clay, and it will kind of lock tight, and the clay will hold together even after the moisture has evaporated. So to score means just to cut in little lines or little scratch marks. I'm going to go around the edge where I'm going to place my pocket, the outside part of my pocket, and I'm going to just make these little scratch marks all around. I'm using a toothpick. I could also use a needle tool. I could also use a pencil, a very sharpened pencil. I don't want to make my scratch marks too deep. I want them to be a little bit shallow. I want them to be very close to one another. So these scratch marks here would be a little bit too far apart. So these scratch marks here are nice and close to one another. They can even overlap each other. That's okay. You don't have to be real picky about them. No one's going to see them. I'm going to go right around the edge of my pocket, the back part of my pocket, with these scratch marks, these score marks. Here we go. I hope I got that in the right place here. So when I put my other pocket on top, they don't line up, do they? This a little bit outside, so I'm going to have to bring those score marks in a little bit closer. Let's see if I can get them to line up now. That's better. Okay. All right. I'm going to put score marks on the back of the outside part of the pocket as well. I'm going to try to do this a little bit quickly. And when we, the actual process of attaching the two pieces of clay is called scoring and slipping. So the scoring is the first part and the slipping is the second part. And for slipping, we just dip our fingers in a little bit of water or a little bit of clay slip and drip it, let it drip into the cracks that we've just made. Now you don't want to press, you want to just sort of touch your finger to the cracks, to the score marks, and just let the water drip in. If I rub it, all my score marks are going to disappear. They're going to get flattened, and then they won't work. So I'm just tapping the water on and letting it drip into the score marks. Okay, and then I'm going to take this piece of clay, I'm going to line up my score marks, and I'm going to press the pieces of clay together, and hopefully the cracks and score marks on one piece of clay are going to smush into the score marks on the other piece of clay and form that nice bond so that they stay attached even after the clay dries. Sometimes a little bit of slip oozes out. That's not a bad thing. And just wipe it off with your finger or a paper towel. And here where I made the score marks too close to the edge, I'm just going to take my finger and I'm going to smooth over that so that you don't see those marks. Just make it a little neater. Okay. So here's my pocket for my keys. Just like that. And in order to hang it on the wall, I need some holes here and here so that I can tie some, make some string come up like this and hang it on the wall. So I'm going to take my pencil, I'm going to support my the back part of my clay pocket with my fingers, and I'm going to make a hole going right through one side, just like that. And then I'm going to support the other side over here. And I'm going to put another hole through here. And then I'm going to very gently turn my pocket over, because once I do that, I get these bumps on the back side. So I'm just going to kind of flatten those out a little bit. I can put my pencil in again from the other side, just make sure it's the back part of the hole is open enough for some string or yarn to go through there. And then I'm going to turn it back over again. And my pocket is starting to sort of fall in on itself, so I'm going to take some paper towels and I'm going to scrunch them up. And I'm going to just gently, very gently stuff them into the pocket so that it stays up and open. So when it dries, when it gets hard, it'll have a more open shape than having it collapse down. Okay, so this is what it looks like from the other side. Looks like stuffed with those paper towels. So this part here stays nice and open. Okay, and this time, I'm not going to, because my pocket is finished, I'm not going to wrap it in damp towels. I'm going to put it on my clay board, just like that. And I'm going to put the bag, instead of putting just the piece of clay in the bag, I'm going to put the whole board in the bag, like this. And you might want to ask a partner to help you do this part. So I want my pocket to dry out. I want my clay to harden. So I'm going to leave it in the bag, and I'm going to leave the bag open a little bit, kind of like this, so that as it dries out, it doesn't dry out too fast. There's a little bit of moisture stays inside the bag. If the clay dries too fast, it can crack, or it can warp, and the edges of the pocket can curl up. So I want it to dry out very slowly. So I'm going to make sure some air can get in, but I also want a little bit of moisture to stay in there as well. And that's it.